Yeah, they see me on top and they get mad cause they can't top me. Got me running up the skull when they even matter cause they can't stop me. Yeah, they see them trying to watch me and they trying to copy and it's looking sloppy. Yeah, we about to get it popping, talking non-stop, can I get a copy? Yeah, they see me on top and they getting mad cause they can't top me. Got me running up the skull when they... Make money, make money, make money, then you take money, take money, take money.
Hello and welcome back to KSB TV YouTube channel. I'm your host, BlaKC HEXican. Thank you all for being here as we let the room and the chat get busy. Please like and subscribe. Take this opportunity to share the link. We have a great guest on today that I know you guys are going to get a lot from. So really appreciate if you guys were to share that link out. I just want to first by saying thank you guys for supporting KSB and for showing up for me today. I've been this year kind of going through this journey of both like self-help and personal growth. And I want to do that in all aspects of my life, not just physically, but also in this crypto space. You can never stop learning. I started this stream originally with my husband. We were gonna, get back into the grind, do this daily. And honestly, just with the desire to DCA more at these prices, my husband's like, you know what? I'm gonna take on some more work hours. So I'm not gonna be able to do the daily stream with you anymore. Which, I totally understand. And I love him for wanting to put our family in a better position. But I couldn't just, stop, right? I mentioned to you guys before that when I got on the KSB tour, the Kryptosparbuch tour with the guys, I just jumped into this setting where not only, are people coming to me like, hey, we love your husband's music or whatnot, but people are asking me like legitimate questions about crypto. And I just wanted to be able to answer those questions. Sometimes women are a little bit more willing to come and speak to another woman as opposed to, these guys that just seem so knowledgeable. You don't want to have dumb questions or whatnot. And so I just wanted to be a resource for people who are new coming in or just want to relearn the basics. So I am now taking myself through a journey from starting all over again. I'm bringing on a lot of different guests that are just going to help me to understand, why is it that we do this crypto thing? What are all these little mistakes that they've made along the way that we can help someone else from making by just, breaking it down to elementary level. So today I have Rags to Riches with me, and I'm not going to hesitate any longer with all my talking. I'm going to go ahead and bring him out.
Hey.
Hey, Rags, how you doing?
I'm good. I cannot complain. Had a fruitful weekend. Came back home, chilling, firing back up the streaming. I'm good to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of your eventful weekend, I think that's really why I reached out to you to be my first guest for this new journey of education. I heard you say something, and I think it was actually on Freddie's stream that we just recently did. And you were saying how, we really just got to get back to the beginning. Like people need to understand, what is the purpose of this crypto space, even beyond massive gains, right? Everybody wants to get rich, make money, but it's deeper than that. It goes to freedom and to, sovereignty. And honestly, all the things that we find on the Texan website, so.
Yeah.
To come.
I think that the biggest mistake that everybody in crypto makes is assuming that a person can start their crypto journey at the same point that somebody who's been around for 10 years. And that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that's one of the biggest mistakes in education. When you go to the classroom and you hear lectures and this and that, they always give you the answer, but they don't give you the why.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only subject or the only curriculum that does give you the why is probably mathematics. But beyond that, you have a bunch of stupid people in some cases. And when I say stupid, I just mean that they aren't able to simply explain the concepts themselves. They can only teach the answers. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to provide the context and I'm trying to provide the foundation. So if somebody's put on the spot, they can kind of quote unquote recurse through days and they can explain things with the foundational building blocks to somebody else, which ultimately that quality and that density of knowledge is really going to help people out, and it's really going to help society out and our ecosystem out moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the few people out there that don't know who Rags to Riches is, what brought you into this crypto space to be so involved, right? Because there's tons of people that just, I got a little money here, I got a little money here. It's only a few that in it changes your life so much that you dedicate yourself to the education, to bringing other people in.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint that. I would say that I've always had a passion of trying to explain things to people in a very simple manner because I want those people to be better. Now, where that comes from, I don't know. I think I was just born with it, so I can't really take credit for it. I give the credit to God for that. But it makes me when I give, it makes me feel good. So I think that that's really ultimately where it comes from. Now, if you've been following me a while and you go back to my earlier content, and even if you knew me in real life before YouTube, politics and the macro picture, why people do what people do, where do these ideas come from? All of these things have always been very important to me, and I was always very passionate about the politics aspect and the happenings in the world before crypto came along. But to be quite honest, crypto was that glue for me. It glued everything together when I started learning, really learning and understanding the money part. And once you start going down that road, it opens up so many doors of understanding that you didn't have before. So,
So about how long have you been in this crypto space?
yeah, so 20, I don't know the exact date, but 2013, 2014 is when I opened up my Coinbase account. I had purchased Bitcoin because I saw a guy on Facebook just shilling Bitcoin left and right, shilling Bitcoin left and right. Now it turns out he was kind of like a hustler a little bit, but I paid for a chunk of his time and learned everything that he knew, and that just kind of set me off in a direction initially. Now there was a time for a couple years where I wasn't thinking about cryptocurrency at all. I just kind of saw it on the periphery. So I came back to cryptocurrency because one of my friends, he's a professional poker player. He's the type of guy that he didn't like to do things on his own. He always wanted to start something new with a boy. He's like, "Hey man, let's get into this. Let's check it out. Let's do it together." Right? And I'm in a sales job and we got some paychecks coming in, and I said, "All right, let's do it." So I go to set up my Coinbase account and put my email in, and it says an account already exists with this email address. I said, "Oh, wow. All right, Brandon, let's see what happened." So it took me, because I had a different cell phone and 2FA and Google Authenticator and all that, it took me probably a week to get back into my Coinbase account. And I got back in. I had an okay little chunk of change in there. And then really over the next couple years, I absolutely blew it. I made every bad mistake, and lost most of my money going up 2017 into 2018. That humbled me. That made me realize that I wasn't smarter than the market. I couldn't just scalp and trade and do all this stuff and then have it be a success story. I also realized that crypto back then, and really to some extent today, exists to redistribute wealth from your pocket to their pocket. And that really fired me up. It made me pissed off because I'm the type of person that I want to stick up for people that don't understand these things. And I hated that people were getting screwed. So I spent the 2019 bear market digging and yearning and trying to learn about how to do this cryptocurrency thing right. And I came up with a couple small little ideas, but small ideas, if applied properly, can yield huge results. And some of that was trading, some of that was proper portfolio allocation. And then I started teaching people as well. I had a Telegram group that was set up for me. My friend set it up and they invited me to my own Telegram group. And they say, hey, Rags, come teach everybody. And it wasn't paid. It was just us chopping it up. We talked about real estate. I was in real estate too. And we just did real well, man. We did really well going from 2019, 2020, 2021. And we hadn't talked about Hex. I didn't know what Hex was. I was introduced to Richard via Twitter. His content was targeting me, and I thought he was a scammer. He dressed like one. He talked like one. It was just extravagant, and I saw all the people in the chats, and everybody else was getting rich off Hex, and I wasn't. I was the dumb one. But I kept following him, kept listening to him, and then I would see the depth and the width of his knowledge when it came to crypto, especially in many different live streams he did with so many people, and seeing him on stage in Malta and just breaking things down at a very, very simple level. And what he did for me at that point in my journey, we talk about journeys, everybody's on a different part. He glued a lot of things together for me that I knew were out there, but I didn't have good resolution on. And he came up with a game plan. I had purchased Hex. I didn't tell anybody in my chat that I purchased Hex because I was afraid if it was a scam, I didn't want to get them screwed over. And finally, I watched a stream with him and Alex Saunders, and I kind of opened it up, and we onboarded probably, 300 people from our group into Hex at that time. And then it was just like everything that he was teaching was everything that I had been trying to teach my group, partially successfully for a couple years. And then I was completely hooked. I was hooked to the contract. I was hooked to the tokenomics. I was hooked to the fact that all of these people weren't concerned about screwing other people. That there was no really redistribution of wealth from one pocket to the other. And it was just a community-led effort to make everybody win. And I absolutely loved it. So I had to start talking about it because it was the only thing that was worth talking about, quite frankly. So, you kind of fast forward and, I met up with Crypto Heartbeat and we started streaming. And again, the political aspect is something that's very, very important to me. And when Matt came to me with the idea to, kind of go down the route of partnering up or tokenizing an existing community, and especially the nature of that community, it really fired me up. And it didn't take much convincing for me to say, you know what, I feel like that's what my life is leading me to. And I want to be able to talk to people in the future about how blockchain can affect these sorts of outcomes. And I haven't really seen anything on the blockchain really affect political outcomes before, or even being able to onboard so many people, existing communities. And it's a grind and it's not easy. But you got to stick to the process. You got to educate people, be out there, teach, do whatever you can, and just don't give up. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're definitely going to talk about Texan a little bit later. I got David in the chat asking, are we going to get into Texan? Because he says he claims so he's now a Texan millionaire, which if you claimed, you are too. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about onboarding, because I know with Texan, that was one of the things that really caught my attention, was the fact that you were partnering with a nonprofit and, essentially exposing this new membership base to crypto when they probably otherwise wouldn't have been too interested, right? Yeah. And so the question kind of goes for both that group and then also your crypto bootcamp class. Like, what is that opening message that you give to these individuals coming in that just have no clue, why they should trust crypto, why should they pay attention to it when it just seems so scammy, right?
Yeah. So I think that, so when I went to Texas and we had all those meetups, I would stand in front of people and I would tell them my story about growing up and listening to talk radio and listening to people kind of criticize the way that things were done from a financial standpoint. And then what I try to do is I try to teach people about what's happening to them that they may not know, or they might know a little bit, but they haven't ever had anybody with the understanding sit down with them and say, this is actually why a 401k was designed. It's not really to benefit you, for example, it's to provide a steady stream of income for Wall Street,
Mm.
right? It's basically an auto debit from everybody's account every single month that goes straight to Wall Street and props them up. Then I talk about inflation and I tell them what inflation is because it took me a while to understand, to have a solid understanding of what inflation was, because that's a word that's thrown out there. I guarantee you 75% of the people on MSNBC or CNN or Fox News or any of these places, they don't actually know what it means either. They're just reading from a script. Can you describe it? Can you understand it?
Mm-hmm.
So people don't know what that is either. So once we start, again, it's all about the building blocks. Once we start piecing together these things and we say, this is a really, really bad situation for people.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to solve this? Is there anything out there that could even come close to making a dent in what's happening to the average person in the West or really anywhere in the world that practices centralized banking? Well, yes, there is an option. It's not perfect, but for the first time in history, we do have a hedge against the craziness that's being perpetrated on us. And if we work together, if we educate people, if we make them more self-aware and more aware of what's happening to them, I think the message of cryptocurrency becomes much more palatable and people can kind of absorb it a little better. And you know that you got them when they start asking good questions. That means they're actually thinking. And that means they've actually understood the building blocks. When you don't have questions asked, that's a problem. So to answer your question, that's the route I go. I paint that picture and then bring it to crypto.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I think that I have a definition of inflation in my head. I don't know how well I could explain it,
right,
to someone else. So like hit
what
me
is
with
it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So one of the best ways, and this is sometimes we need to oversimplify things just to get the understanding, the basic understanding. So what I tell people is imagine that the US government passes a law that says we're going to give everybody $500,000. So you get 500 G's, but you have to buy a Bentley.
Mm.
Okay. So everybody gets 500 G's. Everybody gets a Bentley, right? So it goes through Congress. The president signs off on it. The Treasury starts sending people $500,000 checks or vouchers. We'll just say vouchers, same as money, whatever. But it's for a Bentley. What do you think happens within the first week to Bentleys?
Oh yeah, price goes down. Everybody has one.
Well, the price actually, what happens is the price will skyrocket. Why is that? Yeah, it's because of supply and demand. There's a huge demand, right? Because everybody in America wants one. There's a very, very small supply now because everybody has come in like the first couple days and they bought them all up.
Yeah.
So now we don't have anything there, right?
Yeah.
Nothing there. So what happens? In order to get this out to market faster, a lot of things have to happen. Bentley has to make certain deals with their suppliers and they have to hire more people and they have to ramp up production. And that costs a lot of money. So what inflation is when the government prints imaginary money and people take that imaginary money and they go and spend it on regular goods like eggs, like food, like clothing, okay, like energy, like oil. Like everybody is taking this money and they're buying stuff with it. And that puts a big strain on the economy because it's not natural. It didn't rise and fall with the market. The government came in and injected all this money. So now we have the price of goods and services skyrocketing because there's so much money out there being spent left and right. People are just hoarding stuff. Rah, 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 rah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's all about. We see this. There's lots of different types of inflation. We won't get into that, but from a very basic level, when there's a lot of supply of money out there, it creates a huge demand for goods and services because so many people are buying stuff up. That's really what it is. Now, hold on. Hold on. My little kiddo, he's crying. I got to go make sure he's okay. So you can handle chat here for a second. Hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Look, this is the life of parents. I've had to do it quite a few times, especially when you work from home or if you homeschool your kids or you have young ones. So I'm just going to say hey to the chat. I see Samantha. Good afternoon, y'all. We got some peace signs. Crypto Compassion says, let's go, Ginger. I know he must be talking to Rags. Yes, please hit the like button. Good to see you too, Crypto Compassion. David Lee, good to see you. Hey, fam. Waba says the same. Hey, fam. Yes, I agree totally. Rex Richards is a good guy, and now he's being a good father and responding to his child. So we just got to give him a minute. Hello, Doug. Hey, peeps. What's going on? Got Abit Hex saying what's up to the Hexicans. Robert Keller Jr. Hello, good afternoon. Fat Sammy. Love it. Hi, all. We got Bugs. What's up, family? Black Hexican Rags. Yes. Very good explanation. Even likes the definition. Yeah, I think that he definitely paints a picture for how to explain inflation. Yes, while Abit Hex is here saying this, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that there is a new Hex testimonial video on the KSB channel. A guy that goes by the name of The Only One, I believe. I know him as John. He has an amazing testimonial. This man has almost lost his life multiple times, 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. And he just tells his story genuinely about, the struggles that he's been through, but then also what has changed in his life since he found Sci-Vive and Richard Hart. So if you haven't seen his testimonial, I definitely encourage you to go ahead and check that out. They should buy 500K Hex. Yes. Yeah. Who doesn't want to buy 500K Hex? So yeah, while we wait for Rags to come back, there was something that I wanted to talk about and I can't remember. Drawing a little bit of a blank here. If there's any questions in the chat about what us as the KSB team has going on, or anything about this conversation, questions you want me to ask Rags when he returns, then just throw those out. Let me try and remember my train of thought of what I was what I was actually going to ask Rags next. Yeah, it's just totally thrown me off. Any news about the Highest of Stakes documentary? Actually, I have no insider knowledge about what's going on with the Highest of Stakes documentary. So unfortunately, I can't answer that. Hopefully they do get, picked up by someone big like Netflix or, Amazon Prime, even something like that. That would be amazing. So we're back.
Little guy had a bad dream. So you know how that goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember what our last. I know we were talking about inflation, and I had a follow-up question, and then I just completely lost it. So I don't know if you just want to pick up and share any more on that topic.
Yeah, so I was talking about, you'd asked me to explain inflation. I was talking about the Bentleys, and we did all that, and then we talked about how that has an effect on the broader economy in terms of having an excess money supply without the infrastructure to be able to like provide for that. So I think that's pretty much where we were at there.
Yes, yes, I remember. So then I think my follow-up question was to say, how do you then transition into why crypto changes this, or what is different about crypto as opposed to, our traditional financial systems?
Yeah, so there's probably about two or three main points that we kind of get into here. The first point is crypto will reduce corruption. It doesn't eliminate corruption. Why is that? It's because humans are going to be humans. They're
Mhm.
always going to find a way to try to shortcut things and make life more difficult for everybody else. So cryptocurrencies kind of aim to resolve that issue of absolute power as represented by the centralized banking authorities and governments. And it also represents the old way of doing things. And it tries to resolve this by distributing our financial energy amongst many people, and kind of better yet, amongst all the people of the network. And we have what's called logic-based transactions where I'll tell somebody, I'll say, you take $10,000 and you go to the bank, all right, and you interact with the teller and you give her that $10,000, you have to trust a lot of things here. You have to
Mhm.
trust that A, she counts the money, right? Okay. B, you have to trust that she punches the numbers in her computer correctly. Okay. C, you have to make sure that from point A to point B, she doesn't somehow drop a dollar or two or this or that. And these are things that depend on humans. Now, what I would tell people, what if you didn't have to depend on a human? What if you just took responsibility for yourself like they did for the entirety of history for so long, really? People took control and responsibility of their own money. What if through logic and code and computing right now we had a way to do that, to be able to knock out the middleman? And oh yeah, by the way, when you go interact with that teller, she represents quite a bit of overhead. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, her hourly wage. What about the insurance they have to pay her? What about the social security that she's paying into the government? And oh yeah, by the way, that social security pool is absolutely destroyed right now and completely insolvent. And that's why they're having to print inflation. And oh yeah, what about the electricity costs and the energy costs of the building that you're having to walk into? And what about her manager's salary and her vice president's salary? And it just keeps going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
Blockchain cuts out all that fluff.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have a way to cut it out, middleman gone, and then the fees aren't passed on to the customers.
Mhm. And it's essentially to have the same exact thing that you already have, because think about it, how often do you even use cash? So if that's the case, if the majority of your transactions are through credit card, then is that really much different than a digital asset? Like, you do everything digitally anyway, so why pay all this overhead for people to monitor your money, right? To make sure that it gets from point A to point B, when you can just take over those
Mm-hmm.
processes with the blockchain and do it yourself.
Good
And that's
point.
why for our team, we use that model of being your own bank. I think that's kind of how we go into all of our workshops, our teaching. It's like, hey, why are we paying the banking system to essentially, use our money, right?
Yeah. And here's, you look in history and you have convenience is the biggest tool that every tyrant or authoritarian in history used to convince other people that they should give up the power of their money. That's
Mhm.
what it's convenience. one thing that's very important is we need to make these systems, and we'll see this gradually over time. We need to make these systems easy to use for people. We have to teach people the importance of taking responsibility for themselves once again. That's very important. And that's kind of what we're going to see. The other thing that I talk about too is eliminating the extreme money printing. And again, that kind of goes back into those conversations that we have about like the Federal Reserve. People they've been hearing the word Federal Reserve on news stations and TVs for generations and generations, but nobody understands what that means. Nobody understands. Nobody gets that. But it's used and people accept it now. They don't ask questions. We don't have a media that asks any questions. They're just propagandist arms of the government. So we can't really trust anything that they're saying. So what do we have to do now? We got to go find out. We got to teach people what the Federal Reserve is and how it is harming society. And also how it's also funding these corrupt offspring of government. And that's what it is. So by printing, we talk about by printing more money, a government may be able to, for example, bail out a company or bail out an industry or subsidize its citizens during a time of crisis. But subsequently and also simultaneously, it also devalues its currency by doing that. Now, why does it devalue its currency? Well, we've seen it time and time and time again. If you have more of something, okay, and you don't have the demand for it, it's going to decrease the value of that thing. For some of you guys who are more advanced, this is exactly how a liquidity pool works on Uniswap. If you have USDC and you have Texan, for example, and somebody comes in and they want to buy Texan, what are they going to do? They're going to put more USDC in the pool, and then the pool is going to kick out Texan to that person. So now we have more USDC, we have less Texan. With that mathematical formula, X times Y equals K, that means that the price of Texan is higher because there's less, comparatively speaking. So it's the exact same thing with the government. If they go and they give more USDC or they give people more fiat, more dollars, it actually devalues the currency over time. So I have to be sure to take a lot of time to explain that. And then I ask people to ask me questions about that. And I try to come up with 5 or 6 different ways to illustrate this point, because what one person might understand, the other person might not. So we try to hit it from all different angles to make sure it clicks as much as possible, or at least sets people off in such a way that they're going to ask questions after we chat. Yeah.
What's probably one of the most common questions that you get
when we're having those sorts of discussions? People always say, it's actually funny because I can't remember thinking this or knowing this, but I always get the question or the comment that, well, Brandon, the Federal Reserve's private. The Federal Reserve has nothing to do with the government. So I'm like, well, how come that idea was implanted in the consciousness of citizens of the United States of America?
Right.
What reason is that? And I think that reason is to create the illusion of something that's air gapped or something that is actually separated. You know, you go back to the Bank of England, you go back to the Bank of France, you go back to the founding fathers and all the research that they did over time. And one of the reoccurring themes throughout history is that governments and banking institutions can be good on short time frames, but in every single instance, when you combine the treasury to the government, they call it the 3 Ds here. So you go into a deficit, and then you're in debt, and then you print money and you debase. Deficit, debt, debasement. And that's what the government does over and over and over in every single society, going back and all throughout recorded history. So in 1913, they were trying to find a way to shore up the money supply in different regions of the United States. And the best thing that they came up with was, we're going to create a quote unquote separate privatized banking solution apart from the government. But which is funny. Here's what's funny. Who are they appointed by?
Right.
They're appointed by the government. And
Yeah.
oh yeah, guess what? Let's just hope that the guy that's appointed by, the president of the United States or whoever, let's just hope that they're smarter than the last person. You got a whole lot riding on one head honcho or a group of 15 or 25 people too. So it's very corrupt. The illusion of being air gapped is there, and that's all it is an illusion as well. They're all complicit in this horrible system, and it just blows my mind that these people are paid so much, and they are so well educated, and they refuse to look at the truth. When Jerome Powell goes up here, and the lies that come out of his mouth, whether or not he knows, he has to know. He just refuses to accept reality. And that's the only way that you can accept what's happening to you, is if you refuse to accept those realities. And he's doing it every day. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. So I wonder, do you get a lot of, because I know for me, it always goes back to the big stories that you hear in crypto, right? This exchange collapsed, these people lost all their money. That seems to be the overwhelming response that I get from people that aren't in crypto, is that, I'm going to lose all my money. It's going to collapse, all that. Are you getting the same kind of,
Yeah, of course. That's always one of the biggest ones, right? That's also one of the biggest ones to pop up. And I say, okay, I'll take a step back. I'll breathe. I always look up and to the right when I'm thinking. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I typically say something like this. I'm like, when you go, all right, you're 20 years old. You just got your first legit job. You got the money flowing in, right? Uncle Susie. Yeah, this day and age, it might be Uncle Susie, but Uncle Harry says, you know what, you need to save your money. You need to put your money in the stock market. You need to do this, blah, blah, blah. You don't know anything about that, right? So you just go online real quick and you Google like financial advisor. Okay. So you Google financial advisor. So you call this dude up. He's downtown somewhere. He's got a little shop. It's fancy. It's like some type of fancy white name, Edward Jones or whatever the hell it might be. And you roll up in there. And I ask them this. I say, when you go into that business, that place of business, and you talk to this person, and he or she says, in order to make you a millionaire in 30 years, we're going to day trade. Does that happen? Do they teach you how to day trade? Is that how you get to your goals in traditional finance? Hell no. You don't day trade. You don't gamble.
Yeah.
It's sustained time in the market that compounds. It's like a water droplet on a rock over 1,000 years. Eventually, you're going to get there. And guess what? It's almost a given. If you take the correct actions and you do the right things, then you're going to get there. So then I tie that back to what cryptocurrency here is. They have tried to mimic traditional finance in the crypto world. We've got crypto banks now. The problem is you have a lot of greedy dum-dums that are very directly tied to inflation, directly tied to politics, as evidenced by SBF. And what happens when you give up control of your cryptocurrency and you do stupid things and you take stupid, unnecessary risks, you get wrecked, gone. That's how I illustrate these things. You don't go to financial advisor. They don't teach you how to day trade. They come up with a plan. And what you do, you come up with a roadmap, and what you're going to do is you're going to pivot along the way as things change. You make tiny little pivots. Eventually, you're going to get to where you want to go. And, as much as people hate traditional finance, as much as people will say, it's all a sham, blah, blah, blah. There's no denying that people doing the right thing for 20 or 30 years retire with a big nest egg. Okay, whatever. It's going to be the same thing with crypto, except it's going to be 100 times the returns. It's going to be 1,000 times the returns. It's going to be 10,000 times the returns. So I say, if you just had a little bit of exposure, you can hold for 5 years to be rich, or you can work for 40 years to be poor. And that's a big line that I use too. It's like, just have some exposure, just go down this road, see what this is all about, and understand that the same people who are telling you to stay away from crypto are the people that are quietly in back rooms accumulating to
Mhm.
be able to dump on your head one day because you are the exit liquidity. So that's kind of how I frame those arguments when that pops up.
Yeah, I'm loving all these arguments.
Yeah,
I find this very useful
good.
because these are the questions that you get all the time, and people are entering. This is the fundamentals of why it is that we choose crypto, as opposed to just staying on that rat race of 401ks and Social Security that won't be there, and all the rest of it. So I'm interested to know. What inspired you, right? So we understand this basis, this fundamentals of why we believe in crypto, why you believe in crypto, what your message is. But from there, what inspired you to get with Matt with Crypto Heartbeat and to say that Texan token needs to exist?
I think I had always been searching for that connection between the two worlds that I was passionate about. And in my mind, this was that connection.
Hmm.
It made so much sense to me at the time. And the organization down in Texas made so much sense to me at the time. Now, why did it make so much sense to me? It's because my entire life, I've been, well, I'd say a portion of my life when I was actually paying attention to politics and then contributing to conversations, I would always get so mad, always get so pissed off. And I felt like I was being played like a fiddle,
Hmm.
and I hate feeling like I'm being played. And that's exactly, I was playing into their hands. I was getting riled up. I was getting very fervent. I was being gaslit. And then that energy was directed towards my supposed enemies, political enemies. And for me, there's no questioning that I'm not on the left side of the spectrum.
Hmm.
I'm certainly very much so more libertarian financially, and then very conservative socially. And I was being played, and I hated it. And then I had to do a self audit here, and I had to say, do I really know what's coming out of my mouth? Do I really understand the arguments that I'm making? Or am I just repeating someone who probably doesn't understand either, who's repeating someone who doesn't understand either, who, when you get to the top of the food chain, somebody's laughing at all of us?
Yeah.
That's how I felt. So I said, you know what? It's time for me to learn. So I started learning, man. I took so much information and so many good lessons from Ron Paul. I
Hmm.
mean, and here's the thing that amazed me about that man. He's a doctor, he's a senator. Um, he is so well read. He has such a wealth of knowledge. He's such a good researcher. He ties everything just together perfectly, and it made so much sense for me once I started going down that road. And then he would reference people back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and I would buy their books on Amazon. And even though I didn't understand half the shit they were talking about, I was still reading, and I was still taking notes, and I was still, like, I have notepads on my computer right now that I do it every day, all the time. I'll read something or I'll listen to somebody, and if I don't know something, I'll type it out, question mark, and I'll go back through and Google it and try to understand. So I did all of these things, and I started to get an understanding of a much clearer view and picture of what was happening. And as I got into crypto, as I started understanding how the financial system worked, and then as at first we get into get rich. We wanted to make money. Hey, man, come on, dude. I'm not going to do this by myself. Let's go get rich. Right. And then after that, like, something weird happens. I think people have gone through this too. Your idea of what a lot of money is completely changes once you get into crypto.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember thinking, man, if I could scout $50 a day, $50 a day, that's nothing. I'm gonna be crazy. And then looking, like, now I'm like, $50, dude, are you kidding me right now? What are you talking about? $50? What are you trying to do here, dude? So your idea changes. And then once that changes, and then once you start seeing a little bit of success in crypto, you start finding your path. And my path was, how can I use crypto to affect some sort of positive change in the lives of people, and especially poor people? And I've told people this before, man. My mom, she, when my mom and dad divorced when I was really, really young, it's like we didn't have a tremendous amount of money. So she had to get the welfare. She had to go live in the projects, and she's paying $50 a month rent. And you didn't even have to pay the 50 if you didn't have it. They like wouldn't kick you out anyway.
Yeah.
And I was around all these people. I was around black people, poor as shit. I'm around white people, poor as shit. And my heart goes out to these people. It's because they don't have access to the knowledge that somebody right across town, maybe a mile or two across town, had, and it's completely different lives. And the difference between those 2 points is decades and decades and decades of wealth and decades and decades and decades of poverty. It's not fair. It's not fair. That's what drives me too. I believe that the answer is education and unlocking people, but education coupled with self-responsibility. Because they'll educate people, but they won't hold them responsible, and they won't hold them accountable. And whether, it doesn't matter what culture, if it's white, black, Asian, whatever, they keep these people locked down forever. And I want to affect that. That's why I'm doing this. When Matt came to me and talked about this, I said, you know what? We sit there and we elect politicians, every single year, every couple years, president every 4 years. Nothing changes. They promise us the world and nothing changes. They promise us the world, and I look at the DXY chart, the dollar index chart, and it's still down. It's been down for decades and decades and decades and decades, 92%. What's changing? Why are we playing this stupid game? Is there a way to push back that hasn't been used before in a legal and lawful way? Hell yes, there is. We got to shake these people, and we got to say, you know what? Enough's enough. It's not going to happen. You need to come to the table, and we need to renegotiate this little relationship here, because this ain't working for me. So that's why I was like, man, we have the ability to help make a serious change in the world for the better for a lot of people. And some would argue it's a horrible thing, Brandon. I think the most horrible thing is doing the same thing over and over again and getting wrecked. So that's why it made so much sense to me. Crypto, this organization, what they stand for, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to push back, how they're trying to unravel the federal Leviathan and actually return power back to the individual, because that's the most important thing in the whole universe.
Yeah. So I want to mention who that organization is. I know that it's the Texas Nationalist Movement. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And so I know that it's essentially an endowment token where you guys partner with this nonprofit initially where people could donate to the nonprofit, but then get tokens back. Is that correct?
Yeah, we spoke to our lawyers. We didn't want this to be a security type issue, and they said, listen, you guys can't touch the money.
Right.
And so we donated, all the funds were donated directly to the TNM for their use for Texas independence. So, yep.
And what is it about this organization, about the work that they do, that you believe in so much to want to work with them on such a big project?
Yeah, like I would say that from a global standpoint, we are seeing a trend where these politicians are elected and then they assign roles to unelected officials that get entrenched in government, and they never have to answer to the public, and the bureaucracy grows and it spreads, and then it makes alliances with other big bureaucracies, international. So now we are doing the will and the bidding of somebody else, for example, in Europe, that has nothing to do with what we our daily lives, and they're telling us how to spend our money. They're telling us how to raise our children. This is a side effect, and this is the cancer of what we call globalism. And globalism was a really, really crazy word for people, probably only 10 or 15 years ago. Somebody says the word globalist, and you kind of like, I remember rolling my eyes. I'm like, this is crazy, man, whatever. It's conspiracy theory, this and that. But now all the cards are out. Charlie 19, our little friend that we've been having to deal with over the past couple years here, that caused a lot of the veil to be kind of lifted back, and we see the true intentions of these people, and we see that they see us as pawns, and they see us as tools. And what the TNM is doing down in Texas is a direct repudiation of globalism. They hate what TNM is doing, because TNM is saying the people of Texas, not the TNM, not a politician. We will give the people of Texas the opportunity, just the opportunity, to be able to put their opinion out there on this subject. And they hate it. And I love the fact that they're pushing back against it. That's what this country used to mean. Okay. And there's a lot of other states out there that are looking at that situation, and they're like, man, we just need somebody to step up to the plate, and we'll follow them. A lot of states out there are dealing with the same thing. A lot of states out there are hamstrung by the federal government saying, if you don't play ball, we're not giving you money for education. If you don't play ball, we're not going to give you money for infrastructure. If you don't play ball, and they use it. They use money and they manipulate the states, and the states don't have to deal with it. We just need a state to step up and be a leader. And again, I'd like to see that renegotiation, because we know, the people in the know, in our heart of hearts, that there is some bad shit wrong with our country right now. It's bad. Somebody will watch this stream, and they're going to say, look at this guy, look at this white supremacist, and this is how they're going to smear him. And he's just moonlighting as he's a hobbyist politician. He's a hobbyist radio. He's just some stupid guy on YouTube. Guess what? I love it. You know why? Because I'm allowed to talk about these things, and talking about these things hopefully forms questions in other people's heads about how they're being treated, regardless of who you are. We're all in this together. We got to talk about it.
Absolutely. I got to change the subject just a little bit.
Yeah.
I got to shout out to my girl, CZ Hexi. Super generous super chat. Love you, girl. Really appreciate that. She wants to know, Rags, are you coming on the Hex cruise?
Wow, we'll talk about that in the green room. There might be an opportunity where Rags shows up. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the people want it. We started with this Hex cruise, like, there's workshops here, there's workshops here. We don't need to put on another workshop. Like, we just want to hang out and have a good time. And the people almost demanded that we offer some type of educational portion on the cruise. And so we've made that happen. We now have like a little optional educational block reserved for those people who just want to come and ask questions and take advantage of the wealth of knowledge that we have in our community. So we're definitely, adding that to the experience. But it's interesting, how we can have both. We can have fun and have, stimulating conversations at the same time. I've been to way too many Hex events where we're literally in a party atmosphere, music blasting, DJ over there, and we're over here talking about our T-shares. So, so it is what it is. When you're with like-minded individuals, you can have fun, intellectual conversation in any environment.
It's so true, man. And here's one truth that I've uncovered over the past 24 months or so. There has never been an instance where I went to an event, no matter how big or how small, that was with Hexicans or people, crypto-minded people, that I didn't leave that event feeling like it was worthless. Every single time, it's been tremendous value, whether it's the people, the new relationships formed, the networking, the things that I've learned. It's been completely mind-blowing every single time. So, you know, it's really hard for me now knowing that truth that I know, knowing that I'm like batting 100% in terms of being like, yeah, it works. Like, I don't want to turn any opportunity down to hang out. So you and I'll chat and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this has probably been one of my best streams. I feel like I'm not trying to toot my own horn,
Yeah.
but I mean, this was just very informative. I mean, the conversation just really flowed, and I really appreciate you, you know, becoming my first guest as I start this new journey of learning and interviewing one on one. Definitely a new lane for me, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Well, I'm honored because I know that like I take my channel very seriously. I take the people that come on very, very seriously too. And I'm honored that you would even think about me to come on. So I really appreciate it. You're great already. I'm not sure how much better you can get here. So we'll see. But I'll be enjoying kind of watching from afar here. So thank you for bringing me on. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Rex. Is
Yeah.
there any last minute shilling, as we say? Where can the people find you?
Yeah.
We know that texan.cc is the website for both information and for staking. Is that correct?
Yep. Texan.cc, t.me/Texan token. You know, I've been very pleasantly surprised with the amount of supply that we have out there, how well the tokenomics have kind of taken over. We have a very, very small circulating supply now. It started with about 3 trillion and now has decreased by about 70% in about 3 weeks here. We just broached 3,000 stakers. The average stake length is right around 12 years right now. And we saw a really, really hard bounce off the bottom after we got some big whales kind of sold off for the first 2 weeks. So the thing is, you know, I kind of like just being quiet about it in a way and just
Mhm.
letting our community do the talking. And I think that people see the value of what we're talking about. You, for example, you were one of the first people that really endorsed what we were doing from the aspect of reaching out to communities who aren't involved in crypto. So I appreciate that, and that also kind of shows your wisdom and your experience shining through as well. So come check us out, Texan.cc. Check out Crypto Heartbeat. You can check me out on YouTube, and that's youtube.com/@R2R, @R2R.
Perfect. So my last little statement, if you are interested in coming on the Hex Cruise, it is selling out extremely fast. We are down to basically just interior rooms. I mean, it is just, it's crazy how quickly this boat has filled up. But there is still an opportunity, especially if you have kids. They have this really cool promotion where kids are free. So the pricing when you bring your family is actually a lot better than when you just come as adults. My kids will be there. A lot of other people's kids will be there. So we really want to embrace the whole family. We have 15-year stakes or 22-year stakes, and likely it's our kids that are going to be unstaking a lot of this crypto. So it's probably best that they meet each other now.
They got to learn now. Yeah.
They got to learn now. I also have a book that is on Amazon. It's called ABC Crypto. It's really just a terms and definition book, a good conversation starter for you to start having these conversations with your kids. They'll love the pictures, and then you can ask them questions. We use it for homework. We say, hey, look, I need you to go learn A through C and then D through E or whatever. And then I quiz my kids on these terms so that when I do start teaching them like real legit how you move in this space, none of these terms are foreign to them, right? So that is kind of the intention.
Yeah, and check out too, share with them mycryptoclassroom.com because it's completely free. We created this as a tool for the community to use. Freddie was there this weekend. I mean, Freddie was sitting front row, and we got to go through it all. And it's just a really, here's what's cool. If you want to teach a class on crypto, you can literally go up to the top, share your screen, go up to the top of the classroom, just press play, and then have conversations in between these 7-minute videos. And it goes over quite a bit. There's plenty to talk about. It's a really easy way for you to create some type of meetup club or anything in your small town. And guess what? I didn't make it in such a way that it shills my cryptocurrency. And why is that? It's because I wanted everybody to have access to the knowledge. Completely free. If you don't want to give up an email address, create some burner email address, and then you can log in and you've got it forever. So mycryptoclassroom.com.
There we go. mycryptoclassroom.com. I'm definitely going to check that out because me and my husband, we have decided to start doing some Zoom classes. Really, it was for my family because they just, bear market and they're calling again now, right? Like, is it going to bounce? Like my portfolio's down. What should I do? So we wanted to offer something, but I'm definitely going to look into this to see if that could be a really useful tool as we move forward with just being a resource of education. So that is all we have for today. Thank you again, Regs. I really enjoyed our time. KSB.TV if you need links to anything that we're working on. And that's it.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for showing up.
Oops, messed that up.